Good morning. My name is Amy Fitzpatrick. I'm the County Solicitor and Chief Civil Legal Officer for the County of Bucks. We're here today to announce lawsuits that were filed collaboratively yesterday on behalf of the county and the District Attorney's Office against insulin manufacturers and pharmacy benefit managers for an illegal price-fixing scheme. Manufacturers and middlemen have rigged America's drug pricing system, making insulin incredibly expensive for families covered by our county health plan. I've reviewed the evidence in this case, and what we've found is deeply troubling. A coordinated scheme between pharmacy benefit managers, known as PBMs, and manufacturers that has artificially inflated insulin prices by over 1,000% in the past 2 decades. 3 major PBMs, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum Rx, control over 80% of the market managing pharmacy benefits for over 270 million Americans. This level of market concentration has eliminated meaningful competition and allowed these middlemen to demand ever-increasing rebates from manufacturers, driving up prices for a medication first discovered over 100 years ago. Insulin manufacturers Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi control 95% of the global diabetes drug market. These manufacturers have engaged in lockstep price increases, often within days or hours of each other, which is not how a fair, competitive market works. Insulin, which costs approximately $2 per vial to produce, is being marked up to $300 to $700 with no justification in terms of research and development costs or manufacturing improvements. Insulin prices have increased because manufacturers and PBMs are extracting billions from organizations that run their own health insurance plans, like Bucks County. We filed these lawsuits to fight for Bucks County residents. This litigation seeks to hold manufacturers and middlemen accountable for their role in inflating insulin drug prices across the country. As a food allergy parent whose child's life depends on access to life-saving medication that was similarly subject to suppression of competition and illegal rebates to maintain market dominance, it is an honor to bring these lawsuits on behalf of diabetes family and Bucks County taxpayers. This bipartisan and collaborative action between all 3 county commissioners and the district attorney is what good government is about. We remain committed to advocating for consumer rights and holding these corporations accountable to create a healthcare system that protects our community. I would like to next introduce Commissioner Diane Marseglia.
Thank you. Good morning. You know, as Commissioner, the thing that we are most responsible for is the health and welfare of our citizens. But top of mind all the time is the impact that anything we do will have on taxpayers, no matter what it is. But one of our jobs is to also provide, from the taxpayer resources, the health care for our employees. And unfortunately, through a coordinated pricing scheme, drug manufacturers and middlemen have in fact overcharged the county millions for diabetes medications like insulin. It makes no sense, since insulin is not a new drug. It was invented over 100 years ago. Bucks County knows the impact of a lawsuit. When we filed our lawsuit against Big Pharma and other companies in the national opioid litigation, Bucks County's residents benefited from it. And we don't plan to stand down now, just like we didn't stand down then. When Bucks County is forced to pay artificially inflated prices for our employees' insulin, that's taxpayer money, money that I would rather see go to affordable housing, first responders, or mental health treatment. This lawsuit is for Bucks County's taxpayers and employees, and our goal is to hold the perpetrators accountable for their role in inflating insulin costs around the country. We cannot leave these manufacturers weaponizing drug markets, especially for a life-saving drug like insulin. I am sure that you will be watching us working diligently to hold these companies accountable and to create a healthcare system that truly serves our families and our employees. And I would like to introduce our district attorney, Jen Shorn.
Oftentimes you see me here reporting on crime and our crime-fighting efforts, but there's a lesser-known authority that the district attorney possesses, and that is to go after individuals and entities who are engaging in unfair trade practices and violations of the Pennsylvania Consumer Protection Law. I am proud to join this team in this worthy endeavor to hold these defendants accountable for their actions. Anyone who lives with this disease or the loved ones of those that live with this disease know the impact of this price-fixing scheme. My words could never convey that impact adequately, but I know someone's words that are far more powerful than what I could ever say that sum up the impact on families and our community. And so bear with me as I share the remarks from a mother, a dear friend of mine, who battles this disease every minute of every day on behalf of her son, and her son's profound words. Type 1 diabetes is 100% a fatal disease, and the only reason my son is alive today is because of one thing, and that's insulin. As a mother, I will always worry, in addition to the daily struggles of managing type 1 and the countless possible complications that can accompany the disease. What if someday he cannot afford insulin? Sadly, many young adults are faced with this realization, and as a result of aging off of their parents' insurance, they are forced to ration their insulin, resulting in dire consequences. Why has insulin become a privilege in this country? Insulin is not a luxury, it is life support. And perhaps even more profound is the words from her young son. Insulin is as crucial to me to live as the air that you and I breathe. So again, this is an endeavor that is so worthy, and I am so proud to be part of the team that is going to hold these defendants accountable for this price-fixing scheme. And I turn it over to Commissioner Bob Harvey.
Thank you very much. I want to thank DA Shorn and also our County Solicitor, Amy Fitzpatrick, for their work on this. This is not a suit that we enter into lightly. It is one of several that we have enacted over the past 5 years, 5+ years since this administration came in and began to decide that we wanted to use the power of this office to fight for our residents, to protect them when we saw unfairness, when we saw abuse happening, whether it's PFAS polluters, whether it is petroleum manufacturers, whether it is social media companies, and now insulin. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that this suit really, the work on this suit began over 2 years ago when this board was presented information by our previous County Solicitor, Joe Kahn, who felt that this was an area where we could launch into action. And so I thank him as well. This is, however, personal for me as the father of a type 1 diabetic child who was diagnosed when she was 14. She is now a healthcare professional herself, but she remains and will always remain a type 1 diabetic, reliant on insulin and dependent every day on that medication to keep her alive. The bracelet I wear every day was given to me by her soon after she was diagnosed, and it's a reminder for me of the struggle she goes through. As you heard, insulin is not a new drug. It is not even a drug that has undergone a dramatic amount of improvement. It was invented a little over 100 years ago by scientists working here predominantly in the United States who decided that it was too important to put a hefty patent on, and so they patented it for $1. They wanted it to be available. They wanted it to save lives. What we have seen over the past 2 decades especially is corporate greed at its worst. As an example, insulin in the United States costs 5 times what it does in Chile, 6 times what it does in Mexico, 8 times what it does in Canada, 10 times what it does in Italy, the Netherlands, or Ireland, 13 times what it does in Sweden or the UK, 18 times what it does in Poland. These are developed countries with sophisticated health systems. It is not is not out of the realm of, or it's out of the realm of understanding why it costs so much more here. Our residents and people across this country shouldn't have to be forced to choose between affording diabetes medication and putting food on the table, and yet that is what happens. And this county cannot and will not stand idly by while Big Pharma, abuses its power to negatively impact our tax base or the health plans we offer here. So these efforts are about more than just this, one drug. This is about standing up for doing what's right, standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves, and we're proud to do that as a county. And again, appreciate the efforts of DA Shorn bringing her side into this suit as well. Thank you. Questions for either us? I know typically, of course, Big Pharma talks about the money they spend developing drugs, the money they spend on research and development, the decades of work, which all is very valid for medications of all types to treat all kinds of illnesses and issues. That's not really defense in this. The synthetic insulin, as so it exists, has been around for about 40 years. And so if there's been changes in insulin, it's really been changes in how it's delivered. So you don't have people relying as much on syringes that they're having to inject themselves with. Now, of course, you have pumps and you have continuous glucose monitors and things of that nature, that kind of science. But that's separate from the actual insulin itself that is delivered to somebody who has type 1 or type 2 diabetes. So. Yeah, I don't know of any excuse. I don't know if anybody else has. No.
What are you hoping that comes out of this? Are you guys monetary things, or are you looking for legislation? What are you hoping to get out of this?
Well, I think certainly what we expect is for prices to come down, not just for Bucks County residents or employees and their families of this county, but someone has to stand up, to companies that are causing this pain. To people who need this medication. This isn't something that's voluntary for people. This is life and death. This is required for them to exist, to just live a daily life. And insulin allows people to live their lives in a way that, is indistinguishable from everybody else. You've had professional athletes, Olympians who are diabetic, type 1 diabetics. So it's merely functioning as an artificial pancreas, if you really want to get into the details of what insulin what it really does. Certainly, we can start talking about the impact on us in terms of our healthcare plan. We are self-insured, and so we do expend funds every year. We don't have statistics necessarily on how many of the people we cover are diabetic right now, but certainly I think it's asking for. Not just for us, for our residents, for our employees. It's asking for, prices to be more realistic, more in line with what they are in the rest of the world. So I don't know if anyone wants anything specific. As I said, we started doing work on this about 2 years ago. We authorized our law department to start looking into avenues where we could take action. There are suits that are national that I don't have as much expertise on. Probably Ms. Fitzpatrick can talk more about what's happening nationally with other suits. With the law firm we've contracted with for our part of the suit, it's on a contingency basis. We are one of the first counties in Pennsylvania to enter into this, but there are other cities and counties and entities that have entered into this. So it's happening now because this is when the pieces fell into place for ourselves and for the DA's office as well to do the work they need to do to find, where the lane was for us to take this action.
For you guys, do you know generally how much the price has increased? I know that obviously there's different forms that are necessarily a file, but
Right.
do you give an example of what you've seen price-wise for you?
Well, I mean, certainly it's in my case, for my daughter, we're fortunate in that we've always had pretty good insurance, when I was a teacher, or through through just the family plans that we've had pretty good insurance. So, so we're thinking more about the people who are not as well insured, who don't have the same health insurance. As we've mentioned, it's a 1,000% increase in price over the past 20 years. And again, for a medication that really hasn't improved 1,000 times more. There hasn't been 1,000 times the research done to make insulin 1,000 times more effective. Insulin is insulin. There's not really a way to sort of make it better, synthetic instead of human or other type, but that research was done a long time ago. Okay. All right. Thank you.